Hello there, I'm SilentApollo, and welcome to my Let's Play of Factorio Space Age, all achievements without the brains. This is episode 10, and over the past week I've put together several blueprints to help with the production on the other planets. In this video I review those for Fulgora and Aquilo. If you like this video, leave a like. If you want more, subscribe. Otherwise, you can share your thoughts in the comments. Righto, potato. On Fulgora, I've put together a few extra blueprints. This is the one that took me the longest, because I was umming and ahhing about how I was going to handle the whole recycling, filtering, and all of that. And I've decided to go for belts, simply because robots take a lot of power. So anything that I can put onto the belt system instead of using robots for will save me the hassle of running out of power on Fulgora, which was always a problem for me on the other runs, because I basically ignored all of the belt madness in favor of just letting the bots handle it. But that of course meant that there was a constant power drain on the network, a pretty significant one as well, because bots aren't cheap in that regard. So what I've gone for instead is the belts. So first and foremost, this one. Oh, why is it so dark? Can I make it lighter? Time of day is day. Okay, it's just dark here. Alright, so let's put down, to stop all that flashing. Where is it? It'd be here, wouldn't it? Yeah, of course. Put down some of these. Nope. And then we grab one of these, just to pretend that we've got enough accumulators for a decade. And then I grab one of those. And we just put them down all over the place. Okay, so yeah, the first blueprint I've got is this one, where we take in 2 lanes of scrap, and we output 1 lane of recycled items. Which, yeah, is quite a lot of stuff to think about, so hang on. Let's grab that. Filter for scrap, 50 is fine. Copy that, paste it there, and we grab... Let's just do these. Okay, this isn't an exact replica, in fact, let's duplicate that a little bit. And then we do this, just to make sure. So yeah, I just wanted to demo the whole of Fulgora working, so that's why I'm just setting it up here properly. You know what, let's hook that thing in here to stop it from flashing. There we go. So, this is what I had planned for this blueprint. Essentially it takes 2 lanes of scrap and it makes 1 lane of materials. So basically all of these various materials get put in on this belt, and then obviously that needs filtering. So the next blueprint I've got in the list is this, what I've called the recycling filter. I'm just going to move this power pole out of the way. Let's put it down here. And the recycling filter essentially takes that 1 belt of input there and filters everything out. Now I've got it storing up basically 1 chest's worth of items, and then it outputs everything else out here. And the way this works is it puts the 2 items onto 1 belt. Let me try that again. It takes 2 items at a time. So for example here, I've got low density structures going into the bottom chest and blue circuits going on to the next one. And then once they get collected, they get put, using stack inserters, they get put onto 1/2 of the belt each here. which means that there's a decent chunk of materials on the belt. So we only need basically half a belt's worth of items, because again, remember, this is multiplied by 4 with a full stack inserter system. I mean, ultimately we'll probably only have 2 or 3 levels researched of stack insertion, but it's still significantly better, which is why I've gone for this system. And then basically this is a main bus. If you needed that, let's move it here. Yeah, so you can think of this as a main bus on Fulgora. Goodness me. Alt D. And then it just split off everything that I need as and when and where I need it. Yeah, and then this belt over here holds the overflow, so you can see that this is already filling up with gears because of the amount of gears that get produced in this by these scrap. So yeah, there's an absolute ton of gears. The other thing there's quite a bit of is the solid fuel. Obviously we're going to use a lot of that for making extra power when we've got water to spare, which is always a problem on Fulgora. So yeah, for the most part I'm going to rely on these lightning collectors and the basic ones. What are they called again? Rods, just the lightning rods, as well as accumulators for days, because we can make let me try that again. We can make accumulators fairly easily because we've got the batteries and the gears, which I think the recipe for these is just iron plates and batteries. Yeah, so we can just melt down the gears into iron plates and then grab the batteries as well. Did I make a blueprint for those specifically? No, I didn't. But I did make a blueprint for the secondary recycling. So what happens here, this takes a bit of space, so let's rotate it. Let's have it like this. Let's set up. So that's very nice and close together. So what I can do here is rotate that, get rid of those. And then all the excess materials, once these get backed up enough, these belts get activated. So for example, when iron gears coming out of this circuit decider combinator, and iron gears are active, are overflowing essentially, they come in here and they get put on this belt, which then goes through this scrap recycler, and then restoring all the excess metals, all the secondary materials that come from that process get stored in these chests. At least the excess stuff that we don't like, that we want stored up. I've even put ice on here and solid fuel again, just to have a bit of an extra buffer for those two. And yeah, once these buffers get filled up, it goes back into the recycler to get recycled again. And I've got these extra ones here for steel and iron chests, and there's a reason for that. So iron plate itself takes 3.2 seconds to craft, and actually when you recycle iron plate, it takes 0.2 seconds to be recycled. If I recycle these gears, because they take half a second to craft, the actual recycling recipe is super fast, and you get maybe 2 iron plates from that, whereas the chest makes 8. So you see, it's just faster to actually process the iron chests than it is to process the iron plates, which means this will keep flowing a little better. Now, admittedly, I've got, what's that, 20 recyclers on this, so it should never be a problem. But in any case, yeah. And then I've done the same thing for the steel chests, because steel is even worse. Basically, when you recycle steel, it takes 1 whole second to recycle a single steel plate. But if you recycle steel chests, which by the way take half a second to make, but 8 steel plates, so basically one of these would be 8 times quicker to recycle, except that when you recycle a steel chest, it takes actually less than a second, in basically nothing, to recycle, which is why it's so much faster to do this method. Now obviously we're going to miss a few steel plates and they'll go through, but it's still faster this way than any other way. In fact, I'm going to upgrade that and that, like so. It should help with the whole skipping of materials on those. And then I'm going to retake that blueprint. Hang on. Fulgora secondary recycler. This one. Grab a new. Take that. That's everything. Yeah, save that. You can see I've actually got a little bit of a circuit condition on this system because I actually wanted to store steel chests up here. So when there's less than 100 steel chests in this box, I'm going to basically put the steel chests in there, and then any other steel chests just get put in the recycler. So that's in case I wanted to use the steel chests to make, for example, robot chests and what have you. It's just a useful bit of backup to have, I thought. Yeah, so that's the secondary recycler. You can see these are the resources we get from that. So fast splitters and green circuits. Sorry, not fast splitters. What are they called? Advanced circuits, basic circuits. And yeah, that all comes through, and you can see already that we've got a few gears coming in here, and they're getting recycled down, and that's because this chest is filled up. Basically, I've left these here because this chest is actually a logistics chest, so when there's extra gears in the network, the robots will bring them to this chest, and then the excess will get either overflowed or put on the main bus, which I think is actually a really nice, clean way of handling extra materials. So it's the same for these. Obviously, these aren't going to fill up for a while, but yeah, I've got all of this so that this inserter only activates. No, this overflow belt only activates when there's how many did I make? When there's at least 8,000 red circuits stored up here, which is 4 full rows. So there's going to be plenty of red circuits stored in the chest, but yeah, when there's more, it gets output to this recycler. Now I haven't tested what happens when everything is full here. So I guess I could do that, but it's going to take a minute to build this up all the way. So I don't know if it's worth doing that test. I guess I could always just expand this line of recyclers if I need to. But basically split this belt off and do another block like this, and then filter it into here. Obviously there's a problem because I forgot to power it. But that won't be an issue on when it actually gets up and running, so yeah, I think we'll be good. Yeah, so that's that part of the Fulgora strategy that I've gone for, and then I've got also this extra generic recycler just in case we want to do, you know, one belt to one belt recycling. At some point, it's just whatever. Yeah, it's straightforward enough. Again, nothing's powered because I'm planning to use basically a substation power grid on Fulgora. It's just the easiest. Hang on. It's just one of the easier ways to ensure that everything has power like this. There's the fully powered substation grid. By the time we get to Fulgora, we'll have enough substations to actually make this viable. So yeah, that's why I've gone for that. Without powering these individually, and then obviously we need to have lightning collectors everywhere and just any gap that we've got left gets accumulators filled in everywhere. Yeah, that's how I plan on handling power. And then we've got this recycling loop, which is essentially, let's say we want to recycle iron plates forever. So iron plates come in here, and then when there's enough stored up, we just put them back through the recycler, and then we basically loop it. This could also be used with the quality modules later on, but again, that's going to happen after the 40-hour mark, so I will look at, well, I say 40-hour mark, after the express delivery achievement. So again, all of that is going to be handled later on. It might be quicker to finish the game with quality in mind, but honestly I've never really gotten into quality and I don't think it's necessary, so I'm skipping it. Hang on. Fulgora recycling loop. Cool. And then I've obviously got the electromagnetic, what do you call these? Yeah, the electromagnetic plants up and running. I've basically gone for the same idea as the assembly lines, where I've got a belt in, a belt out, and I've got one that's two belts and two belts and two pipes. No, sorry, one belt and a pipe into a pipe. Is that right? No, one belt and two pipes into one pipe, because of course, let's say this recipe, you can hook that up like so, and then copy that, paste it there, flip that horizontally, and then we can copy that like that, that and that, and then that's the blueprint for this electrolyte. Basically takes in stone on this line, heavy oil here, and electrolyte gets made there, but we're also taking in holmium solution at the bottom. And of course you could turn these however you like, pretty much, as long as they are hooked up down one line. These flow both ways, so it works quite nicely like that. And then I've got another blueprint in here for this one, which is two belts and a pipe, I guess. If you hook them up like lengthwise, it's technically a pipe input as well, and that goes out onto a belt. So yeah, that would be for something like this, which, yeah, that works nicely. Yeah, essentially you can see you get two belts of inputs, so superconductors, holmium plates, circuits and batteries come in here and here, and then the supercapacitors get put out here. I'm started to realize that waiting for all of these to back up might be a little bit excessive, because we might need some of those lower level resources a bit sooner in the production chain. But this is a balanced system. I can always change these numbers in here to start off with if I feel it's necessary. And then I can also just manually plug in an extra recycler up the top here for any extra materials that I need, or assemblers. Just depends on the ratios that end up coming out of this. I haven't fully built it, like I haven't fully built the entire system up to test it functioning. I've just gone with the hopes that they've designed it in such a way that these ratios work out in the long run. For the most part anyway. Obviously gears are a bit excessive, but yeah. And then, was that it? Or is there another one? No, that's all of the blueprints on Fulgora that I've put together. There might be more that I need, there might be less. well, there's not less, but there might be more than what I've come up with. But like I said, what I have come up with should save us a ton of time as it is already. So I think that's pretty much it for now. And again, if I need more, or if there's more variations that I need to design, I think either I will do that in here when we get to that stage, or I will do it on the fly and hope that it doesn't take up too much time. And of course, once express delivery is done, we don't need to worry about time anymore, and then I'll be fine. Next up, all the way on Aquilo, I have started, or I've put together a book for Aquilo essentially as well. The first thing I've got here is a nuclear reactor. You can see that none of this is actually heated at the moment, and the reason for that is because there needs to be a little bit of heat in here. And I do have, on Aquilo, I do have this heat generator blueprint that I can plug in. And the way this works is it requests solid fuel in, and then once it's heated up enough, which is up at 200, it'll stop filling this with solid fuel. That should be enough heat to keep all of these pipes above 30 degrees, which is what you need to actually unfreeze them. Which is odd because, you know, 0 degrees Celsius is freezing point, but whatever. At 30 degrees, basically the whole machine becomes unfrozen, I guess. You can call it that. This heat pipe is enough to melt this corner. Anyway, that's why I've got 200 degrees on that. Now obviously we're missing power and enough solid fuel in this box. I'm just going to request that for now, and then let's just get power. Power. Yeah. Gonna need a substation just to keep everything connected up for now. Okay, so that's going up nicely. So yeah, like I said, once this gets up to 30 degrees, we should see these all melting and coming online. And these get heated actually by the nuclear reactor itself, so that's always nice. And the point with this is to have the cargo, what's it? Space platform hub. No, cargo landing pad goes here. And then these inserters will connect to that. Obviously this needs to move up one, but yeah. And then we have nuclear fuel being sent in here from the rocket. And that reminds me, I need to add that to my list of things. There we go. To bring along to Aquilo. And then, yeah, so that's how we keep everything running, essentially with these heating towers, which get fueled by the robot network. So it's going to be a little bit of an energy drain just to keep everything heated. But hopefully this 40 megawatt nuclear reactor is enough to keep everything going. And if we need more power, then by the time we need more power, I think we'll have fusion power up and running. So for the most part, I think that's alright. And then again, everything gets heated by heating towers. If they get too cold and power runs out, then there's definitely a problem. But by that time, we'll be out of the solar system. So yeah, I think keeping this loop alive long enough to get out of the solar system is the primary objective. And then later on, I can work on making it sort of a bit more stable. And a bit more complicated if I need to. Yeah, and this nuclear reactor is on a 600 degrees Celsius limit, so if it gets below 600, it puts in... I've limited this to one fuel cell. It puts in one fuel cell and heats up again. So this should never go offline as long as there is nuclear fuel in the main hub. But if we need more power, we're going to need more reactors. That's just the way it is. I don't really fancy using heating towers to power Aquilo, simply because they're so inefficient when compared to nuclear fuel. And yeah, if I need a second reactor, I could just power it, like have them connected up in here together and have it do it that way. But yeah, again, that's all. I'm basically hoping that this is enough power to get us what we need. And then I also have these blueprints in here. So the cryogenic array, there's a few more variations than the ones on Fulgora, and this one essentially works like this. So you've got 2 pipes of inputs, or 1 pipe in and 1 out, and 1 belt out. And this recipe is the ice one, I believe. Yeah. So you've got ammonia coming out and ammoniacal solution coming in on one side, and then ice going out on the other. So that's the ice melting recipe. And then we've got another cryogenic blueprint which takes 1 belt and 2 pipes in to make a belt. So you can see it's basically the same thing, except that we've got a belt on the top. And I've made sure that all of this works with the heating side of things. So if I just hook these up, not there. If I just hook these up to one of these heating elements, obviously each one of these lines would have one of these on it, but for testing purposes I've just used one of these, and then we can set that to exactly 700 degrees and everything gets unmelted. Very nice and easy. You'll see that there is still a frozen belt here, but the purpose of this belt is just to make sure that this one is one way, basically so that the ice coming in on this side is put on this side of the belt. Now I've just realized that there's a significant flaw in this modular design, in that everything gets put on the inside of this belt. So yeah, I think I'm just gonna leave it as is anyway. Oops, don't need to undo that. I think I'm just gonna leave this as is anyway, because I guess, well, it doesn't take much just to put one of these in here. Go like this, and then obviously I'll need some underground. Let's put that in here, and then I put an underground in here, and then heat this up. I'll play it like that. I guess that's fine. It's not perfect, of course, but it'll do. I probably won't need more than 4 assemblers on that anyway for the start. I say assemblers, they are cryogenic plants, but yeah. So that was that blueprint in here, and then we've got this one, which is a little neater. And basically what this does is, what did I call it? 1 belt and 2 pipes into 1 belt. So we've got 1 pipe here and 1 pipe here. You can't really see what's going on, so let me just bring this in a bit and heat it up. One of these. It's plenty hot enough. Yeah. So yeah, you can see you've got one belt coming in here, and a pipe here, and a pipe here, and this was for, was it these? Yeah, I think it was this. Yeah. Yeah, this recipe. Yep. So we've got the lithium plate recipe maker, essentially lithium plate maker here. So that's how that one works. And yeah, again, power isn't hooked up to anything because I'm basically gonna use the substation grid layout for this as well. Yeah, that'll be more than enough power to keep things running, and if I decide to switch to basic power poles at some point, I can just squeeze them in wherever. Won't take particularly long to set those up. I mean, this blueprint you can see is quite complex, and not having to deal with that oh yeah, there we go there. Not having to deal with that is actually really helpful. So yeah, and again, I've got my 2 lanes of stripy concrete spacers, but they're just there to remind me to make space as usual. So I haven't got them on being melted. Again, I can make things look nice later on if I feel like it. Basically, that means it's never gonna happen because I will never feel like it, but yeah. So that's the one that takes 1 belt and 2 pipes in, and then I've got 1 belt and 1 pipe, like so. Oh, let's just hook that up to the heating element so that we can see what's going on. And the way this one's used for, I can't remember, to be honest. 1 belt and 1 pipe. What would that be used for? This? Nope, definitely not that. This? Definitely not. This? Nope, also not. It just takes 2 belts. There's got to be some reason I made that. Oh yeah, fusion power cells. So that's what that one is for. Takes 1 pipe in, 1 belt in, because you can put these 2 items on 1 belt, and then outputs fusion power cells. Nice and easy. Again, that takes holmium plates, which we need to ship in from Fulgora, so gotta think about that. But I think for the most part, that's late game stuff anyway. I've made it just in case I feel like making it on the fly, but it's there for actually when we finished express delivery. So that's what that one was, and then I've got 2 belts, 1 pipe into 1 belt, and that's for the more complex recipes like the, oh no, this one's on the 1 belt 2 pipes variation. That one's for the more complex recipe like railgun turrets. So yeah, that's what I've got on the cryogenic assembly systems. I also have an electromagnetic one because the quantum processors actually get made in an electromagnetic plant. So yeah, we've got to hook those up like this. Yeah, and the way this works is, of course, we've got the 1 pipe in here. This wouldn't be this close, this would be over here. And then we could hook that up like this. And we'd have an underground pipe in here going wherever it needs to go. Yeah, so we've got the quantum processors, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different inputs, which is why we've got 3 belts here. So this belt in, and this belt in has technically potential for 6 inputs, and then this is 1 output of undergrounds. The reason I've used undergrounds is so that I can minimize the amount of heat pipes I need, because they are actually the more expensive item. So yeah, using undergrounds is cheaper than using heat pipes. But yeah, and then that's it. That's it for the electromagnetic. Was there something else? Oh yes, I made a smelting line as well, because we need to smelt the lithium plates into, the lithium, what's it called? Just the lithium into plates. So yeah, we just take 1 belt in, 1 belt out. It's the same story as everything else. Obviously this one needs heat pipes, which is why I'm using long-handed inserters for this. But yeah, that's what that does. And that is it on Aquilo. Nice and straightforward. And for the most part, I'm basically ready. Excuse me. For the most part, I'm basically ready to get going with this run, finally. It's been a month of planning and setting up stuff. There is, however, one more thing to do, and that's the final space blueprint, which is the spaceship that'll take us from Aquilo out to the solar system edge. So I will be doing that in the next video or two, because it's going to take a while. It's going to take quite a bit of planning to put together. So anyway, thank you for sticking with me through that mess, and I'll catch you on the flip side.